Anyone? Any guesses? Any takers? We're still waking up from our break. How many of you are still asleep? Okay, so those of you who didn't put your hands up, you should have an answer. Come on, you didn't put your hand up, you didn't put your hand
I'll
up.
put my hand up. I'll go like this.
Yes.
I only made the side of the story that that company or person that owns it believes, not the other side, so you might get a bias.
You might have biases, right? So does anyone know about the whole Twitter issue? Twitter and X?
Yeah. Elon Musk turned it.
Elon Musk bought it up. Why were people upset about Elon Musk buying that company?
He changed the name to X.
Well, I don't think they had an issue with the
What was
name
the point
change.
of naming it?
Cause like
I know Elon Musk
SpaceX, like everything has
kinda
X at the end, SpaceX. whatever.
Elon Musk seems to be controversial. Why is he controversial?
I don't know. He just is.
Because he like opened up like Twitter accounts.
Well, hold on, because he's rich? What did you say about banning some accounts?
He like opened up a whole bunch of banned accounts.
Yeah, notably, Donald Trump was one of them.
Yeah.
As soon as he bought the company, he's like, oh, you're unbanned, right? And the reason for that is because Elon Musk wanted to buy this platform so that it could have more free speech on it, right? That's kind of his argument,
And people
right?
don't
You should
like
be able to
free
ban
speech.
people that you disagree with, right? What's that?
Just say it in person.
Say it in person, not online, but that gets complicated when the world's so connected, right? Like Elon Musk can connect with maybe 100 million people, 200 million people through his app now. But it'd be hard for him to connect like that verbally, right? Okay. Okay, we'll just keep going. We'll keep going. Okay. Here's an example. This is not necessarily transnationals visualized. This would be better for kind of looking at consolidation. So I don't know how well you can see this, but there's I think there's 7 companies in the middle, maybe 8. There's 8 companies in the middle, and they own all of these other smaller products, right? So for example, like you see Coca-Cola and PepsiCo, they own a whole bunch of different brands, right? And all of those might have been individual companies at one point, but they could have been bought out by that main company you see in the middle, or they were designed as a product from them, right? And so when you go into the middle of a grocery store, you might see like, oh, like I have like this cereal, that cereal, whatever, blah, 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 all these different choices. But it comes down to there might be 8 to 15 companies that own the majority of what you see is being sold, right? And that can happen very similarly with media companies as well, right? I just don't have a photo for that. You had your hand up a second ago.
Never mind.
How many of you knew this? Like how many of you have seen something very similar to this at some point? I might have shown you one when you were in grade 9. Something very similar. Yeah. Okay. Are there any problems you could see with something like this?
They could change
They could change
the ingredients.
the ingredients. And how does that impact people?
Well, because they're used to the flavor that they had before, and then it suddenly has changed, and now they're mad because it doesn't taste the same.
Okay.
If one company's doing better than the other in like a small group, they might start funding the other companies. I don't know.
You mean like products?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
One gets
Well, they have so many products that.
one gets more popular.
Yeah. Okay.
Same thing happened with Microsoft and Activision. Microsoft owns Xbox and Activision owns Call of Duty, so PlayStation players were mad because they thought that Microsoft would screw them over and have like an Xbox exclusive.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so those companies buying other products or other companies can impact the consumers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick money grab.
Yeah. Health-wise, what I would have said on the changing ingredients is like, let's say if that big company, let's say like Kellogg's wants to save money, so they start buying an ingredient that's lower quality, that could have a negative impact on people's health, right? And they might be doing it to save their bottom line, which is the amount of money they make or their costs. And and that gets impacted on the consumer. Are there any benefits you see from this image? Like, do you think this is a good thing? That only 8 companies kind of run all the products? Kind of neutral? Maybe the information's not connecting, that's okay. Here is an image of some consolidation. So if you look on the left-hand side, you'll see there's about, what does it say? In 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 companies. Okay, so think about it this way: there was 50 different perspectives. Okay, so if you didn't like one or didn't quite agree with one, you could go find 49 other options. Okay. By 2011, that same 90% is controlled by 6 companies. Right? So your choices are dramatically narrowed. Right? And then there's a couple different companies. This might have changed since I found this document as well. Okay. So with this last one, maybe with food, it's a little harder to see some of the issues, but I think we agreed that with media, it's a bit different. Like, if you control the information people have access to, if you control a particular narrative. So for example, a lot of what was said about the Russia and Ukraine war was that, oh, well, in Russia, they have a state-funded media, government-run media, which means that Putin, or whatever the Russian, let's say the Russian machine, can just simply start putting onto its own news media, hey, Ukrainians are this, Ukrainians are that, this is why we need to attack, this is why the West is bad. They can just pump whatever information they want, and then you get a population that supports what the government is doing because of the information they get. To help you understand that, that would be like, you know, one of your closest friends comes up to you and says, hey, so-and-so said, I don't know, that your hair looks terrible, right? You just got a new haircut. So your best friend tells you that this person you like thinks your hair is terrible. How do you think that impacts your perspective on that person now? You think they're bad, right? You might get upset, right? If you believe your friend, right? And then what happens if you find out later on from the person that, hey, I didn't say that at all? Then what? You know, does that impact your relationship with your best friend? Did you shake your head no? No. So if your best friend lied to you, you're not sure. You're still waking up as well. Those sugar cookies are slowing you down.
I haven't eaten one yet, they're still very warm.
They're still slowing you down. You didn't even eat one.
No, they're warm.
Here's some advantages that I came up with. You might have some more on there as well, some more that you could think of. So if you have these media companies, let's say you have 6, well, they have more money, they have more resources, they might have more, let's say, you know, quote unquote, gravity to them. They can attract more talent. Hopefully then they can make better products, right? Additionally, the only way companies like this get so big is because people enjoy their products to begin with. Like Disney's a great example. Right? People loved a lot of what they're making until like 10 years ago. And particularly in the last 5 to 8 years for Disney, things have been going pretty downhill from what I hear. Right, so people, coming back to that first slide, people vote with their dollar and people vote with their attention. Right, so if you don't like the message in the new Disney movies, what do you think you could do? Not watch them, not buy their products, right? Some people might argue that Disney is doing number 3, that they're expressing diverse views. The people who disagree with that might say, well, the stories are terrible, the character stories are very forced, it doesn't feel natural, and so rather than expressing diverse views, Disney's instead forcing its agenda, whatever that happens to be. Right? Some people might say that. Some disadvantages could be, well, they have too much influence, right? So if one company owns let's say 40 to 80% of the movies that get produced and come out, you know, they have a lot of control over what kind of narrative it's going, right? Another issue with when you have very large companies and they're, you know, buying out all these smaller companies is that a smaller company might have a hard time competing. They might have a hard time getting their movies into a theater, particularly if we're looking at a movie company. Media companies, it's a little bit different, right? So interestingly enough, I forget the name of the platform, but there was a platform that basically said, we're not going to ban anyone from saying anything. We're not going to stop anyone from saying or posting anything. And, you know, Facebook, at the time Twitter wasn't owned by Elon Musk, a couple other companies, they kind of came together and said like, hey, we should ban this platform. Like, this is terrible, right? We shouldn't allow people to go on to a digital platform and say racist things, say hateful things. We need to shut that down, right? So,
Discord in one sentence.
what?
Discord, that's how.
In one sentence, that is it.
What is it?
Racism.
Say whatever you
Oh
want.
God, not in our basketball group chat, right, boys? That's why you kids can't send messages.
Well, we're not racist.
Okay. It's a one-way communication platform on that chat.